Every December in Mexico, the highways and footpaths transform into living streams of faith. Pilgrims pour forth from mountains, villages, and cities, some with bare feet striking the cold ground, others bearing flowers, candles, or even lifelike statues of Our Lady of Guadalupe. Their hymns rise like waves of light, their rosaries slip through weary fingers, and each step resounds as a prayer etched into the earth. Gracias, Madre. This is more than the largest Catholic pilgrimage on earth. It is a miracle that breathes through the dust and the song, a sacred procession where plazas become rivers of tears and streets echo with devotion that refuses to fade. It is history woven into culture, and the soul of a nation answering the call of a mother. If you enjoyed this journey of faith, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more inspiring stories. Every December, Mexico becomes a nation on the move. What was once ordinary pavement and quiet countryside turns into a living river of faith. Families walk together through the chill of the night, their arms full of flowers or candles, their lips murmuring prayers that rise and fall like waves. Some press forward barefoot, their feet raw against the stones. Others carry crosses, banners, or even statues of the Virgin of Guadalupe, visible signs of promises kept. From a distance, the countless figures resemble an ocean of devotion flowing toward one heart, Mexico City. By the time December 12th arrives, the feast of Our Lady of Guadalupe, the tide swells into millions, and the country itself seems to breathe as one. To understand why so many give themselves to this journey, one must go back before Christianity ever reached the Americas. Mexico was already sacred ground. The Aztecs, Mayans, and Toltecs lived with their eyes turned to the heavens. Their temples rose like stairways to the gods. Their calendars charted the rhythm of the stars, and their rituals, though harsh by modern standards, were acts of cosmic duty meant to keep the universe in balance. Religion was not a pastime. It was the very axis of life and death. Then the Spanish arrived, bearing both sword and cross. For the missionaries, the gospel was light. For the native peoples, it was a storm. Temples fell, churches rose, and the sacred language of their ancestors gave way to foreign prayers. Faith was tangled with conquest, and many resisted, not out of disbelief, but because they already believed in something deeply rooted in their identity. The story of religion in Mexico could easily have ended in bitterness and fracture. But history, unexpectedly, turned on a single encounter. In 1531, a poor indigenous convert named Juan Diego walked along Tepeyac Hill and saw a vision that changed a continent. It was not a friar or a queen, but a woman clothed in turquoise, her skin brown, her voice tender, speaking in Nahuatl, the language of his people. She called him my little son. She asked for a church to be built, a place where her love and protection could be known. When roses bloomed in the dead of winter, and her image appeared miraculously on his rough cloak, the people understood. Heaven had spoken, not in the tongue of conquerors, but in the voice of their own mother. That image, preserved for nearly 5 centuries, became the soul of Mexico's faith. More than a relic, it was a bridge between two worlds. In less than 10 years, millions embraced Christianity, not by force, but because they believed God had come close to them, on their hill, in their language, in their skin. And so the footsteps continue. Today, pilgrims set out weeks before the feast, crossing deserts, climbing mountains, or trudging through endless highways. Some crawl the final stretch on their knees, others carry photographs of loved ones, candles taller than themselves, or whispered petitions for healing. Each mile becomes a prayer, each step an offering. Along the way, strangers become family. Villagers share food and water, children run to greet the travelers, and communities open their homes to the weary. The pilgrimage is not performance, but surrender, faith not spoken, but walked. As the journey narrows toward Mexico City, the landscape itself seems to prepare for something extraordinary. Villages give way to sprawling neighborhoods, The roads grow busier, and the air thickens with anticipation. Yet when pilgrims approach Tepeyac Hill, where the Basilica of Our Lady of Guadalupe rises, the noise of the city melts into something deeper. The streets swell with thousands carrying flowers and candles. Trumpets and guitars fill the air with song, vendors sell food and rosaries, and the scents of roasted corn, incense, and burning wax mingle into one unforgettable fragrance. It is not the chaos of a festival, but the pulse of a nation converging on sacred ground. At the heart of this gathering stands the Basilica, home to one of the most mysterious treasures in Catholic history, the tilma of Juan Diego. From the outside, the modern structure spreads like a great tent, symbolizing a people sheltered beneath their mother's mantle. Inside, however, all eyes are drawn to a single image suspended above the altar. The cloak, woven from agave fiber that should have crumbled centuries ago, carries a portrait unlike any known in 16th century art. The Virgin gazes downward, her skin brown, her features distinctly indigenous, her turquoise cloak scattered with stars. She stands upon the moon, radiant in light, her hands folded in prayer. For 500 years, the tilma has resisted every attempt at explanation. Scientists have studied pigments, fibers, and even infrared scans, yet no trace of brushstrokes can be found. The cloth has survived earthquakes, floods, and even a bomb that shattered the altar in 1921, while the image itself remained untouched. Believers see less a puzzle than a miracle, a sign not meant to be analyzed, but to be encountered. An encounter is exactly what happens. Pilgrims speak of standing before the tilma and feeling her eyes rest not on the crowd, but on them alone, as if they are seen, known, and loved. Families kneel for hours whispering prayers. Children stretch flowers upward with wide-eyed wonder. The elderly press rosaries against the railing, tears tracing their cheeks. Some remain silent, overwhelmed by a presence words cannot capture. The question echoes softly in the heart, "Am I not here, I who am your mother?" During the feast of December 12th, devotion overflows from the basilica into the streets. At night, mariachi bands arrive to serenade the Virgin with Las Mañanitas, trumpets soaring, guitars strumming. Families light candles until the plaza glimmers like a sea of stars. Traditional dancers whirl in bright feathers and embroidered garments, their movements offered as prayer. Food stalls fill the air with the aroma of tamales, pozole, and sweet bread. Pilgrims, weary from long miles, eat and sing together, the line between faith and culture disappearing into one tapestry of joy. At midnight, the celebration reaches its peak. Fireworks burst above the basilica, bells ring, choirs lift their voices, and thousands shout in unison. For outsiders, the scale alone is staggering. Millions pressed into one city, one shrine. But the true miracle is not the multitude. It is the intimacy of moments hidden within it. A grandmother clutching her rosary with trembling hands. A father lifting his child to glimpse the image. A young woman lighting a candle as tears stream down her face. Each one encounters not a painting, but a mother waiting for them. The tilma has been called the silent sermon, a gospel preached without words. Her bowed head and folded hands do not demand glory. They point beyond her, to Christ himself. Unlike other depictions of Mary, she holds no child in her arms, yet her very posture proclaims she carries the Savior within. This is why she is remembered not only as the Mother of Mexico, but as the great evangelizer of the Americas, the one who brought millions to faith without force or conquest. Today, more than 30 million people visit the Basilica each year, making it the most visited Marian shrine in the world. But for each pilgrim, the numbers are irrelevant. They do not walk hundreds of miles to see statistics. They come because in that quiet gaze, they hear the same message whispered for centuries. You are not forgotten. You are not alone. You are loved. Nearly 500 years after a poor man named Juan Diego first climbed Tepeyac Hill, the devotion born there has spread far beyond Mexico's borders. What began as a local encounter has become a current of faith that moves across continents, weaving together voices and cultures from Los Angeles to Manila, Madrid to Rio de Janeiro. The pilgrimage of Guadalupe is no longer only a Mexican tradition. It has become a spiritual heartbeat that unites millions in hope and love. Nowhere is this more visible than in the United States. Every December, entire cities seem to glow with roses, candles, and song. In Los Angeles, processions march through downtown as Aztec dancers whirl in feathers and drums echo like thunder, reminding everyone of the ancient roots of devotion. Families carry banners of La Morenita into the Cathedral of Our Lady of the Angels, where music and prayer continue deep into the night. In Chicago, where winters bite with icy winds, immigrant families gather for midnight mass. Hidillo, children dressed as Juan Diego walk proudly beside their parents, keeping alive the story of Tepeyac even thousands of miles from Mexico. In Houston and across Texas, families travel hours to join processions at the Co-Cathedral of the Sacred Heart. From tiny desert towns in New Mexico to the streets of New York City, Guadalupe has become an anchor for Catholic identity in a modern, restless America. Across the Pacific, the devotion burns brightly in the Philippines. In Manila, streets overflow with flowers, music, and prayer as thousands process in honor of Our Lady of Guadalupe. For Filipinos, the connection runs deep. Both Mexico and the Philippines share centuries of Spanish influence, and both found in Mary not a distant monarch, but a mother who walked with her children. What happened at Tepeyac centuries ago feels like part of their own inheritance, and so Guadalupe is honored as family, not as a foreign saint. In Europe, her presence is just as alive. Madrid welcomes thousands of Latin American immigrants each December, their hymns echoing through the streets with a mix of Spanish tradition and Latin rhythm. In Brazil, a land already rich in Marian devotion, Guadalupe is celebrated with samba drums and colorful processions. So, there she is honored not only as the Mother of Mexico, but as a mother for the whole hemisphere, a figure who bridges north and south, rich and poor, city and countryside. Modern technology has only amplified her reach. Masses from the Basilica in Mexico City are streamed live to millions of viewers across the globe. Online novenas unite believers who have never met in person, yet pray the same words together in different time zones. YouTube channels, podcasts, and social media pages share testimonies of healing, conversion, and miracles that inspire strangers thousands of miles from Tepeyac Hill. The pilgrimage that once required dusty roads and blistered feet can now also be joined in living rooms, classrooms, or subway trains, creating a new kind of community, global, digital, and yet deeply personal. Among the most striking witnesses are the youth. In Mexico City, young people who once lived in the shadows of gangs or addiction now lead prayer vigils and organize pilgrimages. On TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, their stories travel far beyond their neighborhoods. They speak with raw honesty, not polished speeches, but the language of experience. She changed my life. She gave me a reason to start again. Their authenticity draws thousands of followers, proof that La Morenita's voice continues to touch hearts even in an age of distraction and doubt. And behind the great statistics are stories that give the devotion its human face. Don Pedro, an 80-year-old from Puebla, walked mile after mile on wooden crutches to thank Our Lady for sparing his life after a terrible accident. Anna, a young single mother, arrived with nothing more than a small bouquet and a whispered prayer, confessing that she had no gift to offer but her heart. Teenagers once trapped in violence now walk proudly with banners of Guadalupe, testifying that her love gave them a new name, a new hope, a new beginning. Whether in the warmth of Mexico, the cold winds of Chicago, the crowded streets of Manila, or the festive rhythms of Rio, the truth remains the same. The devotion. To speak of Our Lady of Guadalupe is to speak not only of a cultural symbol, but of a profound theological reality. For centuries, her image has been more than a painting, more than a relic of history. It is a living sermon, a message written not with ink or brush, but with light and mystery. When pilgrims gather before the tilma, they do not merely encounter a piece of fabric. They encounter a theology embodied in color, posture, and silence. The details of the image are not accidental. They form a visual catechism, a sacred text read not with words but with the eyes of faith. Her cloak, studded with golden stars, echoes the heavens themselves, as if creation bends down to clothe the Mother of God. Her face, brown and gentle, reveals a universal message. Holiness is not reserved for one race or people, but is present in every culture. She stands on a crescent moon, her foot crushing what was once a symbol of pagan power, while rays of the sun burst behind her, declaring that a greater light has arrived, one no darkness can overcome. For indigenous peoples, this imagery spoke directly to their cosmology, reinterpreting familiar symbols with new meaning, revealing Christ as the fulfillment of their deepest hopes. Even her posture carries theological depth. Her head is bowed, her eyes downcast, her hands folded in prayer. She is not the queen demanding worship, but the humble servant pointing toward her son. Unlike countless Marian depictions of the era, she holds no child in her arms. Instead, she gestures toward her womb, signaling that she bears the word of God within her, the Savior soon to be born. In silence, she preaches the gospel. God has come close. God has taken flesh. God dwells among his people. This is why theologians often describe the tilma as the silent evangelizer of the Americas. Without a single word, it has brought millions to faith. But the message of Guadalupe is not only historical, it speaks powerfully into the present moment. In a world often fractured by division, marred by violence, and shaken by doubt, her image remains a sign of unity and hope. To the poor, she is a reminder that God sees the lowly and lifts them up. To the marginalized, she is a mother who whispers that they are not forgotten. To the unborn, she is the protector whose image radiates the dignity of life itself. And to the weary, she is a voice of comfort, echoing the same words spoken to Juan Diego nearly 500 years ago. Am I not here, I who am your mother? The endurance of the pilgrimage is itself a testimony. In an era where secularism rises and religion is often dismissed as outdated, millions still walk hundreds of miles every December to kneel before their mother. This persistence cannot be explained merely as cultural tradition. Something deeper compels such sacrifice. The human heart, despite modern distractions, still longs for meaning, still aches for transcendence, still searches for love that does not fail. The Feast of Guadalupe reveals that this longing is not in vain, that heaven has not abandoned earth. The significance of this devotion also lies in its global dimension. Lourdes in France, Fatima in Portugal, Santiago de Compostela in Spain, each is a site of deep Catholic pilgrimage. Yet the Basilica of Our Lady of Guadalupe surpasses them all, welcoming more than 30 million visitors annually. This sheer scale is not only about numbers, it is about resonance. Her story, her image, her presence touches something universal. She is not confined to one culture or one land. She belongs to the world, a mother for all peoples. Looking toward the future, the pilgrimage of Guadalupe offers a vision of how faith can endure in a changing world. It demonstrates that devotion need not fade in the face of modernity. Instead, it adapts and expands. Technology allows millions to join virtually through live-streamed masses and online novenas. Social media spreads testimonies of miracles and conversions to audiences who might never set foot in Mexico City. Young people, often thought to be drifting from faith, find in Guadalupe a figure who understands them, who meets them in their struggles, and who offers them a new identity grounded in love and mercy. At the same time, the challenges of secularization and skepticism remain real. Critics dismiss pilgrimages as superstition or cultural nostalgia. Yet even their questions serve to highlight the resilience of devotion. If this were mere tradition, it would have faded long ago. Instead, it grows. Year after year, more pilgrims arrive. Year after year, more nations celebrate. This growth itself is evidence that something beyond human invention sustains the devotion. The future of pilgrimage is not limited to Mexico. Already, the Feast of Guadalupe is celebrated across the globe. From Chicago to Los Angeles, from Madrid to Manila, from Rio de Janeiro to remote villages in Central America, processions, masses, and celebrations continue to multiply. Each year brings new testimonies of lives changed, hearts healed, and communities renewed. The message of Tepeyac has become a global chorus, a mother's voice echoing across borders and generations. Perhaps the greatest hope of this pilgrimage is not found in grand numbers, but in personal encounters. A grandmother lighting a candle for her sick grandchild, a father carrying his child on his shoulders toward the shrine, a teenager kneeling in prayer, whispering words of gratitude for being spared from violence. These moments, hidden among the multitudes, are where the miracle truly lives. For in each heart touched by Guadalupe, the promise of faith is renewed, and the future of the church is secured. The theology of Guadalupe, then, is not abstract. It is lived. It is walked in dusty roads, sung in midnight hymns, tasted in shared meals, and felt in silent tears. It is a theology that embraces the poor, uplifts the weary, and reminds the world that God is not distant. God is near. God is with us. And through the gaze of Amat, in the end, the pilgrimage of Guadalupe is more than the world's largest Catholic gathering. It is a living reminder that faith is not confined to history books or church walls, but carried on weary feet, whispered through rosaries, and sung in countless tongues across the earth. From the dusty roads of Mexico to cathedrals and city streets around the world, millions continue to answer the gentle call of a mother who never stops gathering her children. The journey to Tepeyac is not only a walk toward a shrine, but a return home, to hope, to unity, and to the love that never fades. If you enjoyed this journey of faith, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more inspiring stories.